December 5th, 2025, Buddhaghosacariya, Chapter 7. Page 686. Moral self-mastery, bhāvita-sīla. Moral conduct, sīla, is a beginning stage of spiritual practice and is perfected at the level of stream entry, attā. It is impossible for someone who has realized liberation to acts of immortality, dusila, or to deliberately cause harm. For this reason, there are few scriptural references to the moral conduct of awakened beings. The matter to be discussed here is thus restricted to how arihats conduct their lives and act within society. Arihats have brought karma to cessation, nirodha. They have ended karma, the state of action. Their actions are no longer referred to as karma. The technical terms for their action is kriya, meaning doing. Ignorance, craving, and clinging do not control their action. So Avijjā, Taṇhā, and Upādāna do not control their actions. They act with a free mind and with wisdom, clearly understanding causes and effect. They do not cling to the ideas of right or wrong, which for other people are connected to a sense of personal identity and gain. They have no hidden personal desires. They have no conceit about my virtue or my good deeds. For example, they act objectively, reasonably, and correctly. They transcend bad karma. Since there is no more greed, hatred, and delusion that could lead to harm or evil, they also transcend good karma. One may pose the question that all actions require a motivating force and that the critical motivation is desire, which is the form of craving, Taṇhā. How is it possible for arihats to act when they have abandoned craving? Surely they remain passive and idle, although they do not do no bad deed. They also do no good deeds. An answer to this question is that the desire is not only motivating force for action, reason, consideration is also a motivating force. The flow of human life is dependent upon dynamic forces. Unless other factors interfere, the way we live our lives is directed by knowledge. A lack of knowledge gives craving the opportunity to distort or dictate life's course. These two forces of selfish desire and reasoned understanding are often in conflict with one another. At times, selfishness has the upper hand, and other times, sound judgments prevails. When a person is released from the controlling power of a figurative whispering of craving, life progresses without restraint in harmony with wisdom. Wisdom becomes the motivating force. Craving does not just dictate action. It can also hinder action when knowledge encourages to act. Craving, therefore, can be motivating force for action and for inaction. Inaction in such a case is the kind of action, an action of inaction. Craving can have many functions. It can direct, coerce, or impede. When a wholesome action, kusala karma, is not performed, say a student is disinterested in lessons or people do not help one another, we should merely consider the absence of motivating force for action. We should also reflect on the motivation for inaction. To take into account the craving, which comes in the form of laziness, aversion, or pleasure, directs towards other objects, and has greater pull on attention. A habitual dependence on craving creates a secondary struggle between the urge to act and the urge not to act. Whichever selfish motivation is stronger wins. The wisdom is the dominant motivation, the struggle is absent. Through a profound analysis, one recognized another dynamic. As soon as wisdom understands, according to a reasoned judgment, whether to act or to perform from acting, an additional forces arise in the mind which propels one to action or to restraint. This force can be referred to as a form of desire or as a motivation, which will be discussed at more length below. Above, the concepts of craving as a motivation and of wisdom as motivation were introduced. At first glance, there are two kinds of motivation, seems to be at opposites. Although this subject is covered in another chapter, it is relevant to the current topic and thus deserves a basic explanation. Simply speaking, human beings have two kinds of motivations. The first kind is driven by craving, Taṇhā, and is based on our feelings, Vedana. It is comprised of desires, wishes, needs that follow sensation. If someone is pleasurable, or if something is pleasurable, one wants to acquire it. If something is delicious, one wants to savor it. This kind of desire requires no knowledge of whether the object of desire is correct or incorrect, beneficial or harmful. Secondly, the second kind of motivation springs from wisdom. This is compared of desires, wishes, and needs that accord with reasoned understanding at a true comprehension of what is correct. For example, one sees a road is crackling, filthy, obstructed, and slippery. One knows that according to the real purpose and values, such a thoroughfare should be clean, smooth, and safe. When one sees a road in such a damaged state, one wishes to repair and clear it. In contrast with the motivation of craving, this second kind is called the motivation of wholesome enthusiasm, Chanda kusala dhamma, or Chanda Dhamma. Chanda refers to the desires, wishes, and needs that are in line with reality, sabhava. One wishes for something to be as good, fine, complete, upright, or fulfilled as it naturally should be. This is independent of one's likes and dislikes, or of wanting to either acquire the object or wanting it to disappear. In order to satisfy one's personal sentiments, indeed, the desire of wholesome enthusiasm, Chanda, is cultivated alongside the development of paññā, along the side of development of wisdom. When this form of desire, of wanting things to exist in an ideal, natural state, extends outwards in relation to other human beings, it manifests as a wish for others to be well, complete, strong, bright, respected, and happy. Moreover, one wants them to be established in righteousness, established in the Dhamma, the eternal law, free from faults and shortcomings. Gautama Buddha gave great emphasis to human relationship. In this context, according to the circumstances, wholesome enthusiasm, vice versa, others is expanded in the four different kinds: metta, karuṇā, mudita, and upekkha. This could be also called the four Brahma Viharas. Metta is loving kindness, the wish for others to be happy under normal circumstances. Karuṇā is compassion, the wish for others in times of trouble and distress, or to help others in times of trouble and distress, to help them escape from suffering. Mudita is appreciative joy, is well-wishing, the desire for others to increase in happiness and success. And upekkha is equanimity, the wish for others to be established in righteousness, in truth, in freedom from the defect and harm. These are the 4 Brahma Viharas. Compassion is especially prominent in those people who have reached nibbita, nirvana, or nibbana, who have completely free and happy freedom from action based on wisdom, or a motivation force stemming from wisdom, allows for the strength of wholesome desires in the form of compassion to be expressed in full. Compassion is the key quality of Gautama Buddha and the Arihats. For a person endowed with general humanitarian qualities, compassion arises automatically when encountering someone else's who is suffering. The compassion, however, is contingent on the inner freedom and understanding of all things as they are, truly. In the moment, one is not dominated by ignorance, avijjā, or craving, taṇhā, or grasping onto, clinging to, or attachment, Upādāna. For example, one is not acting out a personal gain. One is free from selfish concerns. One does not find pleasure in others' misfortune with answers to their secret wish to inflate one's sense of self. When the heart is not oppressed, it becomes expansive and is fully sensitive to the suffering of others. There is empathy, understanding, and a wish to free others from suffering. If craving does not interfere as self-concern, a free of losing an advantage, or laziness, for instance, life will be guided by wisdom, and the wish to help others will transform into a compassionate action. Chanda, wholesome states of action, right? Wholesome desire, chanda, is the desire of those whose mind are clear and free, who are ready to truly receive others, responding to them with an understanding of their suffering. And their altruistic intentions of wanting other peoples to be released from suffering are readily extended outwards into active deeds of compassionate assistance. This all-embracing compassion of wanting to assist others and free them from suffering is a potent force in the lives of those who have realized nibbita, nibbana, or nirvana. For those whom lingering sense of a self, attā, no fixed identity remains, which needs to be protected and gratified. In summary, true compassion results from wisdom and liberation. The specific term for wisdom in this context is Vijjā, and the specific term for liberation is Vimutti. Vijjā is a comprehensive knowledge of reality that allows no room for a belief in the self, the attā. Vimutti means liberation and freedom. Karuṇā means compassion, expansiveness of the heart, responsiveness to the suffering of beings, the wish to console others and promote their liberation. These 3 qualities are the opposite of avijjā, meaning the ignorance of the truth, satcha, leading to the obstruction of the self. Taṇhā means craving, the desire to compensate for the inadequacy of the self, or to reinforce the idea of the self. Upādāna means the tenacious clinging to things when it is judged that these things will profit the self, or will lead to personal prestige and power. Arihats have abandoned ignorance, craving, and clinging. Arihats have abandoned avijjā, taṇhā, and upādāna. They possess paññā, wisdom, as a beacon for action and compassion, as a motivating force. If the sole motivation for action were to be craving, then benevolent assistant could never be true or pure. By the same token, as long as assistance to others is motivated by craving, it is not true compassion. Craving, including ignorance and clinging, is a hazardous motivation force and causes us to be blind to our own and others' well-beings. Even if we consider such well-beings, our vision is distorted. We do not truly understand what is advantageous and disadvantageous. What is beneficial is seen as detrimental, and what is detrimental is seen as beneficial. Craving is the form of lust, anger, and delusion. It overwhelms the mind, or as the 5 hindrances, nivarana. The 5 hindrances are sensual desire, ill will, sloth, torpor, restlessness, worry, and doubt. In Pali, we call this nivarana. It obstructs the functioning of the mind. When there are no such defilements, the mind is calm and bright. It is able to recognize true benefit. Arihats are able to assist others in fully compassionate way because they have fulfilled their own state of well-being. They have attained personal well-being. Upādāna. They have done what had to be done. Karuṇā. When the personal matters, attā, are finalized, personal well-being is complete. Attā hita sampati. One is inwardly complete and need no longer worry about oneself. A person is then able to fully attend to the well-beings and concerns of others, parata, and live life by benefiting others. Parahita pati. With such fulfillments, the arihats have acquired the qualities of being a friend to all, sapa mita, a companion to all, sapa sahi, and a kind-hearted towards all being, sapa bhūtānukampaka. The word attā, translated above as well-being, here does not refer to the usual meaning as the advantage. It could also be translated as benefit, well-being, welfare, gain, profit, or wealth. It refers instead to true benefit, to the most important aspect of a person's life, in particular to her personal attributes that promote prosperity, maturity, resourcefulness, and self-reliance. This stands in contrast to the so-called personal benefits which causes harm. For instance, eating delicious food, but to great excess. The main purpose of this inner wealth is to develop virtue, specifically wisdom, and to lead to freedom from the controlling power of ignorance, craving, and clinging. The conduct of arihats can be divided into 2 categories: work and personal activities. In regard to work, arihats tend to be leaders. They fulfill their responsibility as Buddhist disciples in an optimum way. Since they have escaped from the constrictive noose of defilements, the responsibility of Buddhist disciples is revealed clearly in Gautama Buddha's repeated instruction, which gave them when he sent disciples out to proclaim the teaching of the Buddha's dispensation during the first year of his ministry, to act for the welfare and happiness of many. Bahujana bahujara sukhaya. The compassion and assistance for the world. Lokanukampaya. and for the well-being, support, and happiness of gods and human beings. Attā, hitaya, sukhaya, deva, manusanang. These qualities are sufficient objectives of the holy life. Brahmacharya, practicing celibacy. They are the criteria of behavior and the practice for all bhikkhus, mendicants, sages, monks. They are the virtues present in persons who are considered supreme according to the Buddhist teaching. They are therefore constant consideration for Buddhist disciples when performing duties or work. The principal work for arihats is to provide instruction to promote mindfulness, wisdom, and other spiritual faculties, and to act as the role model for a happy and virtuous life. Later generations can take these persons as examples to live up to. Ditta nukati, meaning following a clear example. Ditta nukati. It is fair to say that the teaching others is an arihat's obligation. A similar standard of seeking the welfare of all holds true regarding arihats' personal conduct. Although arihats have finished their business and once they have realized nibbita, they may abandon those practices that were undertaken for realization. They frequently conduct themselves as before. On a personal level, this is for abiding at ease at the present. Ditta dhamma sukha vihara. And in relationship to others, it is for the compassionate decision to latter generation. Pachima janata nukampa, by providing a good example. The illustration of this latter motive include Gautama's Buddhas abiding in the forest. Venerable Mahakassapa Thera observed of the austere practices. Even those community elders who have not realized nibbita emphasize acting an example for later generations. For an arihat, the ideal human being, such responsibility in this area is exceptional. Note also that some of the rules of the discipline, the Vinaya, were not prescribed as the results of grave offenses, but rather due to the actions being improper in consideration of future generations. To sum up, the conduct of the arihats, both in regard to the duties and the personal activities, aims for the welfare of many and is done in consideration for latter generations. They act for the welfare of others and the benefit of others, consistent with the virtue of compassion, which is the acts of motivation. It is difficult, however, to clearly picture the life of arihats by drawing from stories passed down from Gautama Buddha's time. These stories are dispersed throughout the sutras, the rules of discipline, and the latter text of the Dipitaka. They stress essential teaching on the Dhamma Vinaya rather than the arihat's personal activities. Gautama Buddha's records of forest disciples, which the commentators claim to be bestowed of rank, include a long list of arihats' names, but it merely praises individuals' abilities or distinct particular disciples. The list mentions work only when the performance of this work was outstanding. For example, Venerable Dipa Malaputta was the foremost as the assigner of lodging. Sena Sana Panya Paka. There is no mention, for example, of those foremost as distributors of meal invitation, distributors of roads, or building masters, who are similar officials appointed by a monastic community. The arihats mentioned in this list may have had other regular duties. Moreover, there's a difficulty in the meaning of some of these words, describing a distinction or obscure. Therefore, the list of the names is inadequate for portraying the extent of Arihat's activities. Nonetheless, we can see the list of foremost disciples of many of the outstanding qualities or matters related to teaching. One can say that teaching and training others are duties for all Arihats, to be done according to their ability. Other activities vary based on individual skill or disposition. Those Arihats proficient in teaching as preceptors and teachers, acharya, are honored and have many disciples. Besides the general teaching duties, they also were responsible for training these disciples. The suttas thus tell all many great monks who, on their travels, were accompanied by large numbers of bhikkhus. Teaching disciples include educating novices. Venerable Sariputra, for example, was an adept at teaching children and probably had many novices under his care. When Venerable Rahura was preparing to be ordained as a novice, Gautama Buddha entrusted him to Sariputra as his preceptor. There are many famous young, accomplished novices who were Sariputra's pupils. On one occasion, Sariputra, while walking for alms, met an impoverished orphan who was wandering in search of food scraps. And out of compassion, encouraged him to ordain as a novice and to study the Dhamma Vinaya. Gautama Buddha reminded the monks to look after the children who came to be ordained. With the influx of large numbers of people seeking training came the duty of supervision. Gautama Buddha advocated a sense of responsibility around the supervision of the community. The objective of community administration is to facilitate training and to provide education to as many disciples or students as possible in an atmosphere of mutual support. Apart from the responsibility of teaching, training, and supervision, the Pali Canon Tipitaka shows that Arihats honored community activity. Buddhas hold the community, the Taṇhā, as the authority. Gautama Buddha continually emphasized communal harmony, both in the Dhamma teachings, the condition of prosperity, apariharya Dhamma, and the emphasis of holding the Dhamma as one's teacher, and in the rules of discipline, especially those concerning formal acts of the monastic community, the Sangha Kamma. Many stories demonstrate concern for communal activities and respect for the community. For example, when Gautama Buddha encouraged the monks to perform the observe the day of the Upādāna each fortnight by reciting the Patimokkha and confirming their purity, Venerable Mahakappina wondered whether he should participate in the ceremony, since he was an Arihat and completely pure. Gautama Buddha knew what he was thinking and admonished him. If you, a Brahmin, an Arihat, do not honor the observance day, who will honor it? You should go and perform the observant day ceremony. Venerable Dipamalaputra accomplished the fruit of Arihatship while still young. He thought, I realized Arihatship at 7 years of age. Whatever a disciple should attain, I have attained completely. There is nothing that must be done beyond this, nor is that which had to be done and is finished need to be added to. What service can I perform for the Sangha? Later he thought, I should assign dwellings and distribute food for the Sangha. He then went to inform Gautama Buddha of his willingness. Gautama Buddha considered and had the bhikkhus meet to consider and accept his appointment as the assigner of lodging and distributor of food. When events take place that may disturb the monastic orders, Arihats earnestly exert themselves to resolve the issue, even though they usually prefer to abide in quiet and solitude. Venerable Mahakassapa, for example, began the proceeding of the first recitation. And Venerables Yasa Kakanda Buddha, Sambuddha Sanavisi, and Ravita initiated the second recitation. In the first recitation, after the formal act of the Sangha Kamma, was complete and the meeting was officially ended, some elders presented at the meeting formally admonished Venerable Ananda concerning offenses or mistakes during his attendance on Gautama Buddha. Although Ananda had plenty of evidence showing that he did not fail in his duty, after clearly explaining his conduct, he nonetheless acknowledged that criticism by these elders. When the Bhikkhu Sangha met to settle legal matters during the second citation, 2 arihats failed to come to the meeting on time. They gathered elders, imposed a penalty, presenting them with a task to be performed. At the time of King Milinda, a king of Greek ancestry who ruled the northwest India, or who ruled northwest Bharat, was eroded in religious doctrine and philosophy. The king challenged various religious sects to debate, causing a disturbance in the Buddhist circles. The elder arihats met to consider the response to the situation. One arihat named Rahuvahana had entered the attainment of cessation, Nirodha Samapatti, in the Himalayas, and being unaware of the meeting, did not attend. The gathering sent a messenger to invite him and also required expellation, presenting him with the responsibility of ordaining the boy Nagasena. Later texts contain similar stories. For example, when the Bhikkhu Sangha was helping King Asoka to preserve the teaching, an arihat named Upādāna had gone into seclusion, enjoying the happiness of absorption, concentration, jnana. Unaware of the community activities, the Sangha assembly sent a Bhikkhu to fetch him and then imposed a penalty for seeking his own individual comfort, not staying in connection with the community. They gave him the duty of overseeing the celebration of Asoka Stupa, which he performed out of the respect for the community. Whatever the authenticity of these stories, especially the latter ones, they demonstrate clearly the Buddhist traditions of arihats being role models in honoring the community and being responsible for community activities. The cause of or motivation for these actions is the same as that mentioned earlier. So that the leading of the sublime life, a brahmacharya example, Gautama's Buddhist teaching, may endure and be established for a long time, and for the well-being and happiness of gods and human beings.